Hey everyone, welcome to Under the Scope powered by Esports Lab, the podcast where we take a look into exciting industry in esports and gaming. We are the founders. I'm accompanied by Jay Madrigal and Will Sosinski, and they'll have a minute to introduce themselves here shortly. But I just wanted to go into a quick explanation of what we're going to be talking to you guys week in and week out with our Under the Scope podcast. So we'll be talking about current events going on in the industry itself, and that is the esports industry, but also the outside influence coming into the esports industry. We'll also be talking a little bit about esports labs itself, what we're doing here and why we're building it. So stay tuned and hope to see you guys week in and week out again in our podcast. So again, my name is Silver Padilla. I'm currently the CEO for Esports Labs. I've been in the industry of quite a long time here, so I won't age myself, but more than a decade, getting close to 2 decades. So, but yeah, I'm very excited to be here again, and I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Jay, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, hello. Good evening, everybody. Like Silver said, my name is Jay Madrigal, and I am the COO or Chief Overlord Officer here at Esports Labs. My background is in e-commerce, and I'm not as big as in esports and competitive gaming as these guys are, but just a little bit of sprinkle of competitiveness in there. So again, Jay Madrigal, COO of Esports Labs. Take it away, Will.
Good evening, everyone. My name is William Sosinski. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Esports Labs. Been involved in esports since about 2005. I have a passion for early stage platforms and expanding esports reach and delivering our message to everyone that wants to hear it.
Awesome, guys. Well, I'm hoping that we're able to reach the massive amounts of people, and I believe that week in, week out, we should be able to get, as we continue to deliver some of these messages, Will, and and then obviously bring some exciting things to the podcast itself. Will continue to grow itself, right? So, but yeah, you talked about I talked a little bit about how I got here, and it's kind of I think is interesting to me, at least, right? So, but nonetheless, I believe that everyone at one point or another has touched a video game in their life, whether it's been on a console, on a PC, or mobile, which is starting to grow rapidly. But for me, it all started with Atari, right? So it was kind of cool because, I went to my first LAN event in 1992. One of my uncles was a big CS fan, or Counter-Strike fan. And I remember going and we saw, he just loved the whole competition thing, and for me, when he took me to the Atari side of things, it was kind of incredible because, I remember all these people with the 7600 from Atari, and they were all playing in it. And there was a bunch of different retro games for us now, but then it was the going trend, right? So that was kind of cool. My first real LAN experience was that at that time. But then you look at how, we got here, basically got here playing Halo, and from Halo jumped into, building teams, esports organizations and all that stuff. And then, a few years ago, started doing tournaments, and I really liked doing tournaments. So for the last 2 years, obviously, as you guys know, we've been kind of building tournaments, and looking at a way to build something for a tournament. But here we are, right now with Esports Labs. And, I think it's fascinating how much the industry has grown, and again, I that's my experience of how I got here. So, Jay, I know you talked a little bit about, you haven't been here in the competitive scene like we have, but everyone has the sprinkle. So how did you get here?
Yeah, no, of course. Again, just same as you. I was born in the 80s, so I'm one of those where very old school in terms of gaming, right? It's been, how many years, technology has changed, but yet the competitiveness of everything is still there, us being competitive, even though if I wasn't really into the esports or the beginnings of it in terms of joining a team or doing a lot of competitive, tournaments and things like that. I was still pretty much competitive, starting from, again, playing Atari just like you did. Obviously consoles were 2-player, it's not just a 1-player game, but they're 2-player games until they became 4-player games, until they became online and multiplayer. That's pretty much how everything was. And, again, I started doing esports, or at least, what it was in terms of mobile, when I did my first startup. Well, it was called Prize Monsters. And again, my background is in e-commerce, and I was trying to figure out how to actually combine that whole e-commerce experience into mobile gaming, right? And so I figured, okay, well, let's do it this way. There's a lot of startups that are working on real money wagering into mobile games, getting a lot of developers to come in and use their tools to create online tournaments and competitions into their games. So I said, hey, well, maybe there's something different here. Let's try doing this and trying to integrate e-commerce and trying to get brands and consumers into it, or products onto it as well. So and did that for a little bit. And that's kind of how I got into esports, got into the world of it. And soon after, going away from the mobile side of things and learning a lot more about, the teams that's going out there. I mean, they're huge, so I started reading up a lot more about it and the community and, the businesses and the brands. And, and here we are. And that's pretty much how I got into it. So
nice. Yeah. It's almost like everyone gets here. The thing is the end result, right? Everyone gets here, but everyone has their story, how they got here. And even though it's a lot of similarities in it, it's just those small differences of how you got here that excites, I love hearing everything about how everyone got here. And I spend a lot of time in events, and that led me to understand more or less the community and what drives people to do certain things, but Jay, Will, just give us a nice little tight explanation of how you got here.
You forgot about me, didn't you? I'm kidding. So,
right.
Yeah,
like Will's not here.
How I got involved in the esports was about 2005. I got out of the military. I was in Afghanistan while I was there messing around with gaming. Jumped onto Halo 2, and then Call of Duty 4 came out, and I never looked back. I'm pretty much a Call of Duty fanboy. Been playing competitive. I started out playing competitive, then I went to clan building, and from clan building, went to managing teams, managing pro teams, and then running into you guys, and started doing tournaments, and here we are today.
Awesome. So
very cool.
So now at least the audience and people listening to our podcast have an understanding of who we kind of are and how we got here. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and jump right away. I know that there's something here exciting coming. So Will has something he wants to talk and share with you guys and share with the rest of us. So yeah, Will, you want to tell us a little bit about your article and what it's about?
Yeah, well, we all are anticipating the biggest game of the year is right around the corner. It's tonight, launching at midnight. It's going to be Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Releases what is it, midnight on the 11th?
Yeah. So it's going to be towards the 12th, actually. So it's really AM of the 12th. So Thursday night.
Correct. And then it's going to be released on PS4, Xbox, PC. Have you guys heard? I haven't read. I know there's supposed to be a delay with Nintendo, but I haven't read too much details on that delay.
I personally haven't heard of it, to be honest with you, but I do know that they did confirm that the Nintendo Switch was going to, it was going to be released on there as well. So I just haven't heard if there was a delay or not.
Okay. I read something about a delay, but I wasn't 100% positive. I know that it's supposed to outpace. I know Red Dead Redemption is supposed to give Call of Duty a run for their money this year, but I think they're going to still outpace it. All the analytics that I've been reading and all the articles I've been reading, it looks like Call of Duty's projected to sell in the 20 million units again.
I don't know, man. Red Dead Redemption, dude. It's going to be a close one.
I think so too. But I think the reason why is because Call of Duty this time around is a little different, right? So it's not just your typical multiplayer and your, campaign, but it's now
campaign.
Blackout.
No
Exactly.
campaign.
So it's multiplayer and Blackout, right?
They've never done this before. No campaign.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the difference. What's the biggest games right now? Where is everyone moving to?
Battle Royale.
Right. So it looks like basically they're doing a lot more. Yeah. So there's no campaign. It's weird because I mean, you take a game like Battlefront, right, the Star Wars game, and when they first released the first one, they didn't have a campaign, right, and now the second one was released. I guess everybody's complaining and they wanted more of a campaign. And so they released the second one and now they have a campaign. So it's kind of weird that way where I guess for COD or, the developers kind of are pivoting and trying to see where everybody is at the moment, right? Obviously, like you guys said, it's the whole battle royale. I guess for a lot of people who are liking these types of games, they don't really care about the campaign, or they're starting to not to care about it, right? So
yeah, no, I think that's the key, right? Like a lot of depends. I think it just depends on the game because there's still a lot of people that like playing the campaigns. I just think it all depends on which type of game it is. So Call of Duty obviously is something that you heard Will, you heard myself talk about. This is the game that we kind of, finished growing up into esports with. And that's all we played. It was all about clans, all about multiplayer and all this, competitive. And really no one really cared about the campaign that much. You don't see a lot of, YouTube videos on like, hey, let's walk you through the campaign of Call of Duty, but you do see it for other games and genres and stuff like that. So I don't, again, I think it's more where Call of Duty is going where it needs to head, and following suit like people on Battle Royale, like, again, you have Fortnite and you have PUBG, right? So I think that's the route they're taking.
And you really touched on a key point. Clans. They're bringing back clan support and they're also bringing back league play. So I think those are really going to help the amateur community. And that's basically clans are the backbone of the competitive scene. Without clan support, you've seen how over the last 3 to 4 years, since AW, Call of Duty is kind of dying.
It honestly has. I mean, again, that's where again I went to a bunch of events year in year out, and let me tell you, as I continue to see, the other hit that didn't help was the fact that it moved over to PlayStation and it made it 18 and over, and back in fall of 2015, right? So that and the change in dynamics really killed and affected the game. Let me take it back. I don't mean kill, but it killed the vibe for those people that actually loved the game, but then were, kind of forced out of competitive because of the age restrictions, right? So
what do you guys think of the new 5v5 competitive mode? I think it's going to add a completely new dynamic to competitive.
Honestly, I want to say what the hell took so long, guys. I mean, honestly, 5v5 is something that we've been seeing for a very, very long time now. You've been seeing it on games like Counter-Strike, League of Legends, and now, you see it on other various games. And, you don't see it very much on like the Battle Royale modes. But I think this is a strategic move, especially because, like you just mentioned, clans are coming back type deal, the support for it. So I think they're trying to get that ready for that. But I think they're following suit with the Battle Royale and now the 5v5 industry. That's what I really think. It just adds more dynamic to the team, and people have been asking it for a long time.
Yeah, I think 5v5 is going to be huge in Call of Duty because you just can't rely on just those 4 guys. It's going to be that extra 5th guy. Like, I'm curious to see the chemistry that the new Optic team is going to have. FaZe, who else is big right now? Ghost. They're all going to have interesting dynamics with that 5th player in the mix.
Absolutely. What do you think, Jay? What's your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I haven't played a Call of Duty game or Black Ops since the PlayStation 3. I think, was it the third one? What was the on PlayStation 3 as well, or was it 2? I think totally forgot. But
yeah, I want to say it's 2. That was the last one.
Yeah, no, but yeah, no, I definitely agree with you guys. The 5v5, it's just the added element of strategicness to that type of gameplay for it. So just like Will said, it's going to be interesting to see it. Once it's there and we get to see how the teams play, and that's where we're going to see how it really impacts the game, right? So
yeah, no, absolutely, and you know what? Talking about all this, one of the new things, that I see happening right now, it's the BattleNet for PC, right? They're releasing the PC version on battlenet.com. So that's, or battle.net, sorry. So that's going to be something really interesting to see. And this is the first time they're doing that, right? As they're claiming. So that's very interesting to see. But another actually new thing that we're seeing is the, sponsors into the virtual reality esports league. So, Jay, I know this is your realm and you like, the virtual reality. So, you want to talk a little bit about this portion of it and, give us your thoughts and insights on it?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we're VR and AR and all the cool stuff. It's that's a thing now, right? And it's not too far from actual like sports and everything. So just a little bit on VR is that there's a lot of games now where obviously with esports they're releasing more of the competitiveness, even though when they release games or VR games that are more single player type of of games, high scores, the arcadey types, they quickly can become competitive. But there are some games where they build it from the ground up where it's definitely competitive multiplayer VR games. So it's definitely something that is, not already in the horizon, but it's already here where big companies like, HTC, HP, Oculus with the Rift are starting to really put backing on, right? So there's different headsets right now from those companies, but just the recent Oculus Connect 5, there was a lot of focus on VR esports, V sports, and everything like that. So there's a really bright future in it because I don't know if you've ever tried playing a lot of these games. I have, I have Oculus Rift at home and also an HTC Vive. So I've experienced, games like Echo Arena or The Unspoken. I haven't tried Onward, and that's one of the games that's really big in VR esports right now, which is Onward. And that's more of a tactical military shooter that they play. So Dead and Buried as well. And a lot of these, it takes the gaming level and a whole new experience. And I think that's what really captures, this new element for it, right? It adds so much more into it, specifically the immersiveness to it. So now that you're just actually playing the game with your controller, you're actually in there. And I mean, you don't feel it, but you do see it. You're inside the game, and you're shooting and dodging and jumping and crawling and going prone, ducking. Those are the things that you can't really do in the regular games, but you can here. So I think, now and in the future, we're going to see this VR esports become very huge, especially in the spectator type, esports because of that. So, yeah.
I find it very interesting, to be honest with you. I mean, I look at stuff like, the article about HP and HTC being acquired as a virtual reality esports for the leagues, right? And it's very interesting because obviously you're starting to see more of these VR headsets come to life, right? They're starting to come to the marketplace, but which one? How do you know which one's the best one, right? And everyone claims to have the best, obviously VR headset and equipment, but any suggestions on, what you're seeing out there? I mean, I know, like you said, you have the Oculus Rift, you have the, Samsung Vive. So which one is your favorite?
Or HTC Vive.
Or HTC Vive, I'm sorry. Yeah. So
it's, it's really, they're very close together and it's, really preference right now. It's really all about the pricing, but, Will, I think you have, I don't know if you have any suggestions or jumping in on that. So
yeah, what excites me is seeing how there's virtual athletic leagues starting. And then there's also the Void. I don't know if you guys have been to Vegas, or I think there's one in LA as well.
Yeah, they have the Star Wars experience actually for the Void.
Yeah,
It's
the
by
Void.
Disney. Yep.
Yeah, the Void Star Wars experience is it's amazing. It's a little backpack that you wear with a headset.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too cumbersome, but it's not VR, it's AR. So it's like you're actually physically walking, touching things. The need is just or the experience is just unbelievable. If you've ever get the chance to do it, it's well worth the $40 or $30 that you're going to pay.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there a lot of these on location, or what they're calling now location based VR physical places. There, like you said, the Void. There's spaces now here in Irvine, California, in Irvine Spectrum, that they've just put up in there, and you can pay $30, and I think it's like about 15 to 20 minute experience on like a Terminator type of a game, VR game, and again, touching bases back to what Silver was talking about, and because there's so many different types of headsets, right? You have the two biggest ones, which are Facebook's Oculus Rift, and you have HTC Vive. But really, the technology is going to more in terms of what it's going to become in the future, and how is it going to be more of a mass adoption. Because right now, when you're talking about VR and trying to get that really full, real VR experience, you just need a little bit more you need a bit of cash to be able to do that. So it's not just the headset itself, right? When these first came out, they were like about $800, when they first came out. So now they're a little bit more cheaper, but that still means you have to dish out on actual computer hardware that's able to run these full VR experiences, to its fullest.
Absolutely.
But for sure.
And I mean, I think what's going to happen is, as we start moving more into the VR scene, things are just going to get even more expensive, when you start moving in there. So obviously, jumping ahead of the curve and buying the equipment that you need, so I believe that if you're in search right now in the market for a computer, start thinking ahead, because some of these games you're going to start jumping into them, and you're going to have to go back and maybe replace the hardware, upgrade it. So might as well just think ahead and start buying this stuff, knowing that, eventually you're going to want to try some VR games and stuff like that. So yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, it is getting cheaper, because in the idea here is for VR to really get mass adoption, right? For everybody to experience VR, and that's where HTC and Oculus are heading to. Even the announcement of the Oculus Quest from the Oculus Connect 5, which is a $300 device that is basically PC-less. You have a device that you can actually have, and it's completely untethered to your computer. And it actually has its own hardware built onto the headset itself. And it has an actual inside-out tracking, so you don't need these receivers and the satellites that you would as, the actual Rift and the HTC Vive. And again, going back into the VR with esports, it's, I think, there's leagues now for VR esports that's happening. So even with just the Oculus Quest itself, or the Oculus Quest, you're going to be able to experience actual real scale, bigger room scales in terms of what you can do. So you can actually play on an actual tennis court wearing your VR headset, and actually play tennis with somebody else, for instance, in France, and you would still have that full size court experience. So, just like augmented reality, you're inside this VR and playing tennis, but it's really a different world, Yeah. So that's Will,
actually pretty cool.
Really quick, Will, with all this being said, obviously you as a marketing officer, how do you think what does this mean for esports brands and gamers? I mean, how do you think you're going to be able to brand going forward with this?
Well, what I'm looking forward to is when places like Dave & Buster's, where they replace laser tag with AR VR, and that will really serve as a customer retention tool for those locations that they've never had before. People are going to experience things that are they're new and completely immersive experience. Laser tag is corny. No one likes to do it really. I mean,
no, you don't like it?
It's fun one or two times, but that's it. Where AR, VR is a completely new experience every time you do it. Laser tag is just shooting, and that's it. Like shooting, run, shooting, and then you always get those kids that cheat, cover up their thing. Where AR, VR is completely different ball game, and it's the next level of laser tag.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's kind of like where it is, right? You know, don't get rid of laser tag exactly, because laser tag is cool, but incorporate or integrate the VR headsets into it where everybody can actually, you know, go inside a room, but it's completely like an alien base or something, and people are playing the laser tag there. That's awesome, and that's what Void and Spaces are doing in these location-based, physical locations for VR, and that's exactly what they're doing, and I think that's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
AR, VR, capture the flag, laser tag.
Yeah, no, for sure. I know Dave & Buster's. I don't know if you guys have been to to Dave & Buster's recently, but they do have that the Jurassic Park experience in there. So if you haven't been there, go there. It's like $5, I think, for the experience, and it's like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I think that right now where we find ourselves in the virtual reality esports, especially a league being talked about and virtual athletes and all that, it's again something really cool, that we jump from Black Ops 4 coming into Battle.net or Battle.net for PC. Now we're talking about virtual reality. Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump on something that I really, really liked, right? It's blockchain. So obviously, I believe that blockchain will disrupt the video game, and I'm not the only one. I think there's a lot of people out there that are in the same boat, same page as I believe I am. And I know Jay and Will, you guys are as well, since, we're here building esports labs on blockchain. So, but yeah, I mean, I found this article very interesting because it talks about, the possible for gamers and their characters and items and multiple games with interlinked environments. How do you think, Jay, that's going to kind of work out? I mean, when they start talking.
All I think about with the blockchain and all these emerging technologies, to me, it's just like Ready Player One. That's kind of like where it's headed, right? Blockchain is the base of it, where we're going to be able to have this technology that will help us move forward to that, and combining all these, AR and VR, artificial intelligence, all that cool stuff. So I mean, in your own words, Jay, what is blockchain for the people that don't know? Oh, for people, well, blockchain is more of a secure way of transaction between people. So instead of actually, it's decentralized, so it's not owned by anybody else. And so let's say, for instance, I'm trying to think of a quick analogy of how this works so that people can understand. So let's just say, for instance, I'm going to pay you $5, right? So $5 in the blockchain. I pay you $5, but it's really anonymous. It's not going to retain a lot of information. And what happens is that think of it as a block, right? The blockchain. And it's when you make that transaction, or when we make that transaction, it's going to create that block. So there's going to be a lot of hash codes and all that stuff, all the cool technical stuff that's on there. Yeah. And what happens is that it registers it as in a more secure place where it's everywhere, right? So you could have a duplicate of the block, making sure that that transaction took place. That means it would go into the other networks and then also have that same block at the same time, so that it's being checked by a lot of different people, right? So if you have a lot of different, I guess you could say like different bankers checking on that transaction, it's hard. It's more secure. And it's hard to change, because if you were a hacker or something and you were to go in there and change, for instance, that transaction, you wouldn't be able to that easily unless you change everyone's version of it, right? The duplicate.
Correct. So basically, yeah. Everyone has the same copy of the same transaction. So if someone goes and tries to manipulate one of them, it doesn't affect everything else. So the transaction still exists, but and they're easy, and this allows it for reducing fraud and this lost revenue. Correct.
Correct. Yeah. So every block would check that transaction and make sure that it was valid. So if there was one that said, okay, well, no, wait, that's an invalid code there or transaction, and then they would, all question it and make sure that, but it's just the validity of it, right? Making sure that everybody all is in the same page for it. So that's kind of like the quick and dirty example that I can describe with the blockchain.
Yeah, and blockchain is so big and massive and something new again that everyone's diving into, and but again, it brings a lot of things to it, right? I mean, how is it going to play in esports, right? So how's it going to play in what we're doing? How is that going to work, right? So there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, safe storage, for instance, right? Secured information, so when you guys come in, again, because of the reduced fraud, and then it helps us secure information better, and it helps us collect data, but at the same time, again, we ourselves are able to choose how much and what type of information is shared and who can see it and all that through the blockchain. But also, when you start looking at payment processing, I know that one of the cool things about blockchain is that it helps saves millions on payment processing. And that's one of the cool things that I like, because it brings a lot more value to a lot of people, whether you're actually making transactions yourself, you're, a company that's taking transactions in, so a lot of these micro transactions for like the game developers, they save a lot of money on that, just like you would. So again, right now, I mean, Jay, I think you and I were talking about the how much people get charged when they go to Apple, when they go to on the Apple Store, or they go to the actual Google Play Store. These game developers get charged a lot. And this,
yeah, it's the usual. I mean, even for Steam, the iTunes or Apple iOS Store and Google Play, they're all 30% about. So yeah, they do take a big chunk off of the game developers. So that's definitely how they make their money. But then again, you can't distribute your app without them. So
smart contracts.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you brought up smart contracts. What is it that you like about smart contracts?
No, that's just their automatic trigger to whatever parameters you set up. We can set up a trigger point, and that smart contract pays out that person right away, as long as they have their banking information uploaded. It's an instant payment process. It cuts down on having to go through like PayPal or Stripe or any of these other companies that are around the world. We'll be able to save so much money by doing smart contracts.
No.
Plus,
for sure.
Plus, there's that added security of like the payment's going to be made on time and when the trigger is. It's all transparent.
Absolutely, and I believe when you start talking about transparency, that's one of the main things. People want to know what they're, if they have an affiliate program with some company, they want to know what they're making. They want it to be transparent and make sure that no one's hiding any information, getting frauded and stuff like that. And smart contracts allows that through blockchain to be transparent because of the transparency of blockchain, as Jay mentioned. So, it's really, really a unique way of being able to support and, in a different type of dynamic, and bring a different type of dynamic to how we go to market right now and how we do business itself. So, when we start thinking about, decentralized applications and stuff like that for ourselves, we started looking at blockchain as a means for us to be able to pivot from just being, again, a tournament organizer to moving into building a network where we're able to support and our core infrastructure be that blockchain, and one project be able to support another through the blockchain. And the cool thing about it is that Esports Labs came from, an idea of understanding how we would be able to build this network and what needed to be built. So for us, we see it as as an opportunity to come in and build a bunch of different products underneath one umbrella and be able to interconnect them so that they're always communicating them, to each other through themselves, and make it more as user friendly as possible to everyone in the actual platform itself, right? So how do we do this? Well, our core infrastructure will be blockchain, and this will be possible because of that. So, but Jay, Will, feel free to jump in and throw your 2 cents on why we're using blockchain, and why Esports Labs is here.
Well, I'll jump in. Kind of even give it a more dumber down version of what blockchain is. It's basically a secure digital ledger that's decentralized. And what I'm excited about is seeing digital assets in an augmented world have proof of scarcity, like how scarcity, am I even saying that right? How scarce a certain item is.
Scary.
We got you.
How rare a certain item is throughout the entire ledger. And that'll just show proof for publishers, for if we do in-game content or in-app purchases on our platforms. Let's say we have like a certain type of emoji or emote uniform or avatar shirt. Like if we can, through our blockchain, we can prove that there's 5 of those or 5,000 of those in our entire ledger with proof. Can let's say Fortnite, can they prove how many Red Knight outfits are out there? They don't have that. They can't randomly just recall that up. Where through blockchain we could.
So
for sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
No. For me, I'm really excited with blockchain with gaming, right? And again, esports and gaming as a whole as well, because like Will was saying, is that when you're playing a game and you're purchasing this and that virtual assets, they don't really mean a lot, right? It's not really gaining value, right? Everybody can purchase it. So there's that whole if you don't get it, right, there's only a certain amount of it. And that's what game developers can actually take advantage of, is that they can only say create 10 of something, right? It could be like a cool knight armor or something like Fortnite. If they were to develop or create a like 10 different suits for an avatar, they can pretty much, see where that's going, where maybe they can make it so that only a certain amount of, achievements or something that you can win that or something like that, right? And then only 10 people would have it. But at the same time, with the blockchain, you can actually trade it. So that particular digital asset can go up in value, right? So that's where the real cool stuff happens, is that right now you can't do that. Well, you can't buy something from like a Fortnite asset and then sell it to anybody else.
It's not. It's actually considered illegal. So, right. And that's, It's crazy, because if you bought it, you own it. So why not be able to actually be able to trade it as you please, right? Look, you go out, you buy trading cards, and what do? You trade them, but you bought them, right? So why can't you do that with digital content? And that's one of the things I really don't dislike currently. But again, as you said, right, with this ability, with the with the blockchain, how it allows you to be able to do that, I think there's a big change coming on the way to do that. It's just who gets to it first, and who's able to make it work. I think that's the biggest thing.
I'll tell you why, because of the big companies that, look at Sony in terms of the cross-platform. They didn't want to open up until just recently, because they just wanted to make sure that if you were on PlayStation, you bought the digital assets there, that was the only place you can actually access it, and you can't access it anywhere else. And when it all comes down to it, it's just money. They want to be able to keep that onto their platform. And because what would happen is that if you were, imagine right now, and even for consoles, Microsoft, Steam and all that, they're not going to let you just open up a system where you can start trading assets, right? Because if they do, there's not going to be any revenue being made for them unless they create some sort of transaction fee whenever something like that happens. And it's probably never going to happen, or maybe it is. But you kind of see where that's going. And if you open that up, that's something that, okay, well, they don't have to purchase it anymore from you because everybody else has it, and they're just trying to trading and selling it to each other.
This really reminds me of Ready Player One, where they have those few accomplishments that they get, those achievements, like Bob Smith unlocked this one achievement, and it'll be everywhere in the ecosystem that we develop or come up with, or that whoever does. And that's going to be so much added value when people can see a leaderboard with only certain number of people having certain number of items.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, it's great. There's a lot of blockchain and a lot of these other new emerging technologies they're here to say, AR, VR is here to say they're not going to go anywhere. They're not trends. They're not fads. They are going to be something in the next 5 to 10 years. And going back to what Esports Labs is that we are going to become this, or we are, looking to become this innovation company, software development company that is focused on esports and gaming. And our core infrastructure, or the core technology that we are going to be using, is blockchain, because it is the way to the future of how to connect all these other technologies to it. So there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'm very excited, again, to be here with you guys and be able to, talk a little bit, about what Esports Labs is, and, be able to share some information and some of our thoughts with the people that are listening to our podcast. And, and thank you guys, again, for taking the time to listen to our first podcast. We'll make sure that we put the links where we, that we were discussing here earlier in our description. And we just want to make sure that we thank you guys for taking the time to listen to our podcast here. And as always, it's really appreciated if you guys could provide us some feedback or any questions that we might be able to answer for you guys that we might have left out on, maybe more questions on what Esports Lab is, where we're headed, stuff like that. But again, please feel free to share your feedback, and by all means, we look forward to hearing you guys and, from you guys, and be able to answer any and all questions in our next podcast. So until next week, thank you guys for tuning in. Jay, Will, thanks for your time tonight, guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. Awesome. I think this is definitely a good start for our first episode for the podcast. And there's just going to be a lot more exciting in the upcoming ones. A lot more good stuff, a lot more about Esports Labs, exciting stuff. So definitely stay tuned.
Follow us on all social medias on the Esports Labs.
Yep, that's for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and make sure to visit our website at Esports Showdown. That's esportshowdown.com. And our website will be soon put up at esportslabs.io. So again, guys, thanks everyone for tuning in. We hope to hear from you guys. And again, we'll try to answer all questions that come our way in our next episode. Thanks again, guys. Have a great night.